What's up, guys? Cody Bidlow with ATHLETE.X. Today we're talking about how you can improve stride length through training, as well as how you should not try to increase stride length when you're out there sprinting. While you're here, please subscribe below, hit that like button if you like the video, and leave a comment if you're so inclined. Now, oftentimes I get questions asked to me on social media via email or whatever, and it's often something like, "Please help, sir, help me so much with my sprints." And I'm like, okay, well, there's only so much I can do when I'm just texting you over a social media app, but I try my best. I try to respond to people. I don't always do it. I'm busy. I got cats to take care of. I got to put food on the table, all that stuff. But hopefully this video clears up the question of how to improve stride length. Oftentimes when people think of stride length, they think of those stupid ass advertisements that every shoe company, supplement company, every fitness company out there seems to put out, where they got some person in the air looking like they're pretending to sprint, and they got their front leg is like totally open at the knee, leg is reaching out in front of them, and they look like they're just doing some weird, jump, but they're trying to look like they're sprinting. That's not the way to increase stride length, okay? We don't increase stride length by reaching out and trying to grab out in front of us. Let's take a step back. How do we define stride length? Stride length is defined, at least in my book, as where your center of mass is at touchdown and where your center of mass ends up when you touch down in the next stride. So from stride to stride, how far did you displace your center of mass through the air? That is your stride length. Not where did your foot contact from one stride to the next. People often get it twisted and think, oh, it's where my feet contact, and then they reach and they think, oh, I'm increasing my stride length, and then they tear their hamstring and they wonder why. Well, it's because that's not how you do it. The only way to increase stride length is to increase how explosive you are, how powerful you are, and how much you propel your center of mass through the air each stride. So how do you do that? Well, you strength train, you do power development training, you do sprint training, you work on technique, and you bring all those factors together in a long-term program that you perform consistently, and your stride length will improve. We have to think about the technical things we can do. So that's how you push into the ground. That's how you strike the ground, how much force you strike the ground with, what direction you're applying that force into the ground. We have to think of what can we do in the weight room or out on the track via jumping and throwing implements to improve our ability to generate force in a way that is explosive and powerful. How can we utilize maximal strength training or absolute strength development to give us a greater baseline of force production, which we then sort of convert, so to speak, into a more explosive movement? And what are the needs of the individual athlete? If you're younger, you probably will improve your stride length just by getting generally stronger. You could do a 5x5 program or something like that, where you're just doing, moderate loads for moderate number of reps and sets, and you'll get stronger and your stride length will improve without you having to do anything other than just do that and go do your sprint training. As you get faster, or as you get older, or as your training age increases, which usually those all happen at once, that's where it becomes a little bit more challenging. That's where you should probably be focusing more on power development. You want to push those absolute strength levels as high as they can, but at a certain point, the return on investment is not necessarily that high, so you have to think, well, how much of that absolute strength can I convert into a more explosive movement? And that can be where you use your clean grip high pulls, your snatch grip high pulls, your box jumps, your depth jumps. You can think of, are there any leakages in our body, such as at the ankle or the knee or the hip, where we're losing force when we strike the ground? That's where using certain targeted isometrics can be useful. I got a video on my YouTube. It's just a short clip of an isometric Smith machine A switch, I think is what it's called. And that's something where you can work on stiffening the ankle and the knee joint in a sprint specific position, which is going to allow you to transfer any force from your muscles into the ground more effectively. You could be as strong and explosive as you want, but if your joints collapse when you hit the ground at a high rate of speed, that's not going to do you any good to propel yourself through the air and propel yourself down the track. So you have to consider, what am I lacking? Am I lacking force? Well, then I need to just work on strength. Am I lacking force at a high rate of speed? Then I need to develop more power output. Do I have force and I have power output in the gym, but it doesn't transfer to the track? Well, probably there are certain isometric moments where You're just not able to transfer it because your joints aren't stiff enough in that specific type of movement. So that's where plyometrics, those specific isometric movements that you could do on a Smith machine, on a seated calf raise, or by using, stiff leg jumps or whatever you think and you and your coach think are optimal for the weaknesses that you're trying to improve upon. But whatever the case, you got to find the specific things that you're lacking and then apply them to your program, and probably your stride length will improve or your stride frequency might improve. But either way, if you're doing the right things and you're doing them in a holistic manner, you don't have to worry about your stride length because it will improve in a natural manner just by you doing the right things, sprinting with the right technique, and focusing on that. When you break down too specifically into these nitpicky details, it becomes questionable as to how much you're going to gain by focusing on the minutia. The coach should be able to look at those minute details and think, how does this interplay with everything else? But as the athlete, unless you're coaching yourself, you got to step away from that and think, well, I'm the one who's moving and I'm the one who's doing it, so how can I make the best of that? And beyond that, you just got to let it go. Sensing, being aware of your body, those are the things that are going to help you in the long run improve as much as possible. You got to be open to understanding movement on a deeper level, and that's the way that you're going to ultimately be able to change your technique for the better if you need to, or be able to generate more power or whatever, is by being as in tune with your body as humanly possible, and then making little small adjustments and then seeing, okay, how did that result? If you have a free lap timing system or something like that, that can be really useful on the track, where if you try to control your movement in a slightly different way, say you try to get a little bit lower shin angle, or you try to give more of a punch instead of a push when you're sprinting, and then you see, how did that affect my time? Or maybe you just go, I'm just going to run as relaxed as I possibly can. I'm going to feel like a wet noodle sprinting down the track. You might find that that's your fastest approach. Is stride length important? Of course it is. Is focusing on increasing your stride length as a very specific goal necessarily going to make you run faster? Maybe not. But doing the things that contribute to increasing your stride length will. So you got to be able to identify, what are the things that I need to do that'll help me achieve this goal of increasing your stride length? And what can I do as an athlete to, make sure that I'm doing all I can so that the program my coach has for me is going to work for me in the long run? And how can I be as in tuned as possible into my movements so that I can control my movements? I don't want to say control them as in okay, now I'm driving my knee and then I'm going to flex my ankle and then I'm going to, not like that, but that you just really feel what's happening and that you're so in tune with how it feels that you don't have to intellectualize it as much and you can just go do it. Once you get to the point where you're not thinking about how to move, you're just moving, that's when you've taken your next step in your development as an athlete, and you're probably going to see some improvement the more you train and the more you perform and compete with that sort of approach. So I know we got off topic, guys, but I think those are important things that you need to hear if you're an athlete who's concerned with your stride length, because you probably come from the mindset of thinking, well, there's all these little puzzle pieces I have to figure out. And if I figure out all the puzzle pieces, then I'll run fast. Okay? You need to take a step back. Like I said, look at what you got to work on. Relax a little bit. Take away the intellectualization of it while you're actually doing it, while you're actually sprinting, and just go out there and perform through feel, not through thinking. Once you do that, you're probably going to feel more natural, and you might find, that's all I had to do. Now I'm running faster and my stride length is improved or whatever. So if you're looking at your videos and you're thinking, man, my stride length is not that great, identify, are you lacking force? Are you lacking power? Are you lacking joint stiffness at certain points? Say when you strike the ground, does your ankle collapse? Does your knee collapse? Does your hip collapse? Whatever. Look at those things and see what of those things you can improve. If you improve those, you're probably going to improve your stride length. You're probably going to run faster. If you open yourself up to understanding movement on a more feel-based level and you're more in tune with how moving feels, that might help as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you can get something out of this video. I know we went a little bit off topic, but these are things that I think are really important for athletes to understand, or coaches who are coaching athletes and need to communicate them in a certain way. Thanks for tuning in. While you're here, please hit that subscribe button, hit the like if you like the video, and leave a comment if you have anything to say. This is ATHLETE.X. Thanks for tuning in.